KTXH-TV, Houston.
Good Saturday morning to you, and welcome to yet another edition of City Beat right here on 20 Vision, KTXH-TV. I'm Sean Rabb, and the next 30 minutes we promise will be informative for you. We're going to talk a little later in the program with Bob Dean, who is the Executive Director of Job Plus. We'll tell you about how Job Plus was formed and its purpose. But first, we'll visit with the Assistant District Attorney for Harris County, and he also wears the hat as head of the Worthless Check Division. His name is Jeff Ross. Jeff, thanks for joining us this morning at City Beat.
How you doing today?
I am feeling tremendous, I might add.
Great.
We're going to talk today, though, about something that's really serious here in Houston and Harris County, and that is the problem of hot checks, or as they have been affectionately dubbed in the department, paper hangers, people who write worthless checks here in Harris County.
Right.
It's a big problem for merchants right now, isn't it?
Oh, it's really a major problem. Right now in Harris County alone, there's over 10 million hot checks written each year, and the value of those hot checks is a staggering $3.2 billion. So in Harris County alone, it's a major problem.
Now, for people to understand why you're so concerned with it, it's passed on to you and I, the consumer.
Exactly.
When hot checks are passed and merchants have to absorb those loss, then they have to recoup that, and they do so by raising prices.
Exactly, and that's one reason out of 5 that we in the District Attorney's Office are actively going out there and seeking these hot checks, trying to get the merchants to file it so we can get criminal convictions on these hot check writers, and maybe they'll stop writing these hot checks.
Now, I guess a lot of merchants don't even bother with the process of filing a charge, a complaint, or whatnot when someone writes a hot check. Huh?
Right, only 2% of all the hot checks are filed with the DA's office or JP's. That means 98% of all the hot check writers know they can get away with a crime. They know that the worst thing that happens to them is that a collection agency might hound them over the phone for a few days, and then that's it. Then they get away with it. So only 2% are filed. And I think the merchants need to come down to the DA's office or the JP courts and file against these people. That's the only way to tell these hot check writers that no more will we tolerate you writing hot checks. Rather, you will be prosecuted, you will be arrested, and maybe jailed for writing hot checks.
Now, you're having a big push right now, aren't you, on informing and educating merchants about the process of filing against people who pass bad checks.
Yes, as of October 1st of '86, we started a big push with the merchants. But recently, over the last few weeks, we started to go merchant to merchant now, taking our job to the street, so to speak, to let the merchants know that we are available to file hot checks with, that they need to go out and actively do something about this problem by filing with our office. And we believe by hitting so many merchants that they will in turn start filing, and they have.
Now, before we start talking about another segment of this hot check problem, let's talk about a new device, if you will, that popped up in Houston now, I guess, 3 weeks ago. It's a fingerprinting device. It's called AuthentiPrint or something like that?
That's one of the devices called AuthentiPrint. There's another one on the market, and it's a device that I think will be very helpful to the merchant. At first I thought it was very offensive for somebody to put their fingerprint on a check, but after seeing the device, it leaves no ink mark on your finger. You simply take your thumb, put it on the pad, pick it up, put it on the check, just like that, and you can leave. There's no mess, there's no wiping off, you don't feel like a criminal, and then there's an indelible print on that check, and it's very useful.
What will that enable you to do?
Well, first of all, we're hoping that it will deter the hot check writer from passing that hot check. If that fails and he leaves his print, it'll help the police agencies find out who that person is if, in fact, they opened up a bogus checking account. And that happens a lot, where John Smith's name's on the check and the address, everything is false about it. We don't know who wrote the check. So if they have a criminal history, we'll be able to identify who actually wrote that check by the print. And thirdly, it'll help prosecution because we'll be able to prove beyond any doubt who wrote that check, since his print's on the check.
Now, a guy told me, I never heard this before, but he said most times people who give you a bad check, they give you correct and proper information in terms of name and where they live and things of that nature. Is that right?
Well, not really. Most people give correct information at one point. They live at a certain address at one point, but most of them move. They're very transient, and they move from apartment to apartment. It's very difficult to find out where they live. If they've left a forwarding address, then we may have some information to go on. If not, which most of them don't, we don't know where they are, so we just have to wait for them to get arrested for some other reason, like for a traffic ticket.
Do these systems like telecheck and other things, do they help in any way in preventing some hot checks from being passed?
Yeah, I think telecheck, telecredit, those type of systems are excellent because when somebody writes a check and then they call up telecheck or telecredit, they tell the merchant whether or not to accept that check based on negative data in their banks, based on whether or not that person has hot checks written. So theoretically, if every merchant used that system, then a hot check writer won't be able to pass a check anywhere since his name will be on the computer database and the merchant won't be allowed to take that check.
Are there telltale signs that you can look for on a check maybe that might say this could be a hot check writer or this could be a bad check?
There's nothing really on the check itself. The check itself is really a worthless piece of paper. I mean, I could hand you this piece of paper right here which has nothing on it and write some things on it, and you know, you'll take it for some goods or services, and it's really nothing but a worthless piece of paper. I mean, you can't buy anything with this piece of paper. It has no value. It only is as good as the information that's put on it.
Now, you've got some little circles and things on here. What are all that about?
Well, this is just about 17 pointers that a person who is taking a check should look at when they take the check. If anything is wrong with any one of those 17 pointers, then you're taking a worthless piece of paper. And I like to liken that to when somebody takes a check for merchandise and they write, you know, something on the back real quick, the driver's license, they think, well, this is a good check, I'll give the merchandise up. And I liken that to the fact that, you know, I have a $20 bill here, and let's say I give you this half a $20 bill for a pair of shoes. Would you be willing to take that?
I'm afraid not.
Right, of course not. But if I told you this other half was at my bank, would you be willing to just take this for the shoes and go to my bank and redeem that, would you?
Well,
of course not.
Probably.
Well, okay, but what if it's not there? You have nowhere to find me.
I have no way to find you.
Exactly. But a check is no different. You take this check on my word that I have enough money at my bank to cover this. But if I don't, you want to make sure you know where I am, where I can be found, because you want your money.
That's right.
So we encourage merchants to get all the information down on the check, assuming that that check is no good. If they don't assume that, then they're out of luck if that check is in fact bad.
Now, what's happening to paper hangers in Harris County, Jeff? Because the DA's office is very serious about it now.
Exactly. We've had an increase of 119% checks coming into our office over the past 6 months. Merchants are coming into the office filing cases now. We've had a 101% increase in the amount of people arrested for writing hot checks. And we have gotten over 100% increase in the conviction rate for hot check writers. So merchants are starting to file. We are going out there arresting these people and putting them in jail for writing hot checks, and they're being punished for writing hot checks rather than just slapped on the wrist for their actions.
Okay, now where can people call if, first of all, they're a merchant and they want some more information, or if someone is watching this morning and says, gee, I know I've got a check or two that have bounced, you know, where can I call for some help?
Well, first of all, the merchant can call our office, and we hand out a brochure here which tells the merchant about our office, what kind of checks we take, and other information. If they'll call 221-5829, they'll be able to get one of these brochures mailed to them. We'll be happy to do that. If somebody has written a hot check and wants to know whether they have an open warrant, they can call the sheriff's department or the county clerk's office or a constable, and they could probably help them out.
Now, if they make that phone call and go on in and take care of it on their own, then they're not in danger of being arrested.
Well, that's not quite true. Once a warrant has been issued for somebody's arrest, and if they appear up at one of these, the constables or sheriff's department, they may be arrested. A warrant is issued for their arrest.
So they may have to post a bond or something until that's taken care of.
Exactly. They can do that either at the constables or sheriff's department, but since a warrant is out for their arrest, they need to be arrested.
Okay, and that phone number again, Jeff?
221-5829.
I thank you for joining us this morning on City Beat to talk about the problem of paper hangers and the war on paper hangers in Harris County. Again, Jeff Ross, thanks for being with us. We move on now, my friends, to our parenting tip from